Welcome back to Aleida's Curiosity Closet. Today we're going to be continuing on an interview with Pam and Brandon where we talked about getting jobs, but we ran out of time, and we need to talk about all the other cool stuff you can do in Calaveras County because it's not all work. You can have fun here too. So here they are again. Hey guys.
Hey.
So what are some of the different things you can do in Calaveras County? Because I hear people say, oh, it's so boring when school lets out, even though they want school to let out, but you know.
So there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
You can start up at the top of Calaveras or to
Alpine.
County, thank you. And so there's Bear Valley is offering kids programs, arts programs, a rock and roll program, rock climbing program, lacrosse camp, tennis camp, disc golf group, all of it Bear Valley. So
Don't forget one other little thing. You can ski up.
Oh yeah, in the winter. That's true.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a music festival coming up. A great place to be volunteering, because you'd be able to have a chance to really see top-notch musicians and equipment in
They also have a
use.
lot of bicycling.
Oh, of course.
Up there, they do every year. They do a couple big, huge bicycle runs.
That's right.
It's a little bit more intense, but you know they're looking for volunteers. But it's a fun thing to do if you're a really good cyclist. So
Yeah, get a bunch of friends together and get a campsite. Be those people that are handing out water bottles, along the trail, and put it on your resume. Coming down the hill, then in Arnold, there's a herb shop in Arnold, Time for Herbs. They're offering a children's program in herbal lore. That family is 4 generations of herbal growers and healers. And so they're running a children's program in Murphy's. But that's kind of a cool thing because I don't know much about herbal healing, and I think that'd be really interesting.
I think there's a lot of really awesome creative classes from free to paid to learn how to do some kind of creative skill, just for the fun of it. I know we talked about jobs before, but there's also a lot of things like, say for example, if you want to learn how to do pottery, there's places you can go to do pottery.
There are. So although we will deal more with teens than not with
Right.
children, but then Martha Wallace, for example, is offering watercolor classes in Murphy's. And of course, you can get a group out with your sketch pads and somebody who knows something and just go out and learn how to sketch. I spent a lot of time as a kid up at White Pines Lake drawing with my mom. And so my sisters and I, and sometimes some other kid friends, we'd go up and we'd sketch. And we learned, how to draw. But it just took somebody with a little knowledge, and generally there's somebody out there who would be happy to take a group of kids.
Well, even if you don't know, if you want
Do it anyway.
Yeah, if you want to draw or paint, you just got to do it. And
Do it.
Even if you're not good, just
Do
got to
it.
keep doing it
Just
because
keep
you'll
doing
get better at it.
And do the
so.
same thing 10 times, is
Yeah.
what my mom always said and made us do. But back to Arnold. We've got the Arnold Rim Trail, which needs volunteers, and it's a wonderful 10.5 miles of fairly organized trails. You still want to pick up your map, though, before you go on it, because they
Yeah.
don't have enough signage up because they need volunteers.
But there's some really beautiful views up there.
Oh, a
There's
Cougar
a
Rock,
waterfall.
and
there's
the
Cougar
San
Rock.
Antonio Creek.
There's a place they call Top of the World where you can see really far. You can see Mount Diablo, and it's it has a range of difficulty, I should say. Some of it's really easy, and some of it's more difficult if you want to do some difficult hiking. And it's good for bicycling. And there's parts of it that are good for equestrian too.
Sure. So if you didn't want to hike, there's softball teams, there's baseball teams, there's that wonderful pitch at baseball field at White Pines Lake. There's the logging museum up there, which is really impressive. Not to mention all the other museums, but we're staying in Arnold. So logging museum in Arnold. There's a visitor center now in Arnold who's looking for people periodically to hand out information for them. Clockmaker.
I think the logging museum is a really awesome place, and even if you're a teen and you think, oh, it's boring and why would I want to go in there? But it actually is really interesting. I think anybody could go in, walk in there. If you actually took the time to just step in through the front door, you would find some really interesting stuff. They have really awesome old artifacts and lots of history. And I think that there's something for everyone. There's art
and that's also a potential future career, but you need to know the history of it too. We will be logging and using wood. It's a sustainable product, and we will be using it in the future. It's not like this is a dead art. We need to learn to manage our forest well, but that's part of learning, starting with that. If that was exciting, which I find it so, then that could lead into a whole career, just by getting excited for the first time and walking through a door. So working down the hill.
Lots of stuff at Murphy's.
Well, disc golf. Don't forget the disc golf at White Pines Lake.
A new one at not White Pines, but the park kind of next to it where the school is.
Oh, Blaken Road, on Blaken Road.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. There's the quilting group. And then they do fundraisers and they do good works they help support the Ronald McDonald Foundation, making quilts for kids. They have their big fundraiser either just happened, but that's a huge, big fundraiser. Sure. But that's another great place to volunteer. So there's of course there's a 4th of July parade coming up in Arnold and the crafts fair up there. Moving down the hill to Murphy's, we've got Feeney Park, we've got soccer, we've got disc golf, we've got a skate park, all of which needs trash picked up periodically.
There's a lot of, in all these places, there's Arnold too, there's a lot of great restaurants to eat. If you're having fun, you want to go and you're a kid, there's lots of restaurants you can go to or places you can go. They don't really like loitering, but if you go there and you're going to, get some food and hang out, you can.
Yeah, ask questions.
Yeah.
Find out about cooking. If I could go back to school, there's so many things I still want to do, but one of them would be I would like to go to culinary school. So what would I really? Maybe you should ask, be thinking about that as a future career. Talk to the chefs, talk to the wait staff, talk to the owners, find out what they really like about what they're doing, and see if that's a direction you'd like to go.
Even if it's not, still might be fun to just do and learn and figure out if it's something you actually do want to do. So.
Yeah. So all these things, you get information and see where you want to go with it. And my cooking that I did in high school and college actually helps me in my chemistry laboratory that I use in my field. I use the same techniques cooking that I do making glazes in my pottery business. Who would have thought? I didn't know, but so it's a good skill. Okay, down the hill. So we've also got Martha Wallace teaching classes in Murphy's, and then there's let's see, the Angels Camp. Oh, we've got the Mercantile, which has karaoke and drum circles and art and really kind, nice people. And
that's a good place to go and get coffee or a tea or ice cream,
price
and you can sit down and hang out a little bit, and it's a really nice environment in there. So,
Angels Camp Theater has matinees, and you can get the public transportation. So what's better than taking a bunch of friends and sitting in an air-conditioned building? I can't think of that.
I think a really good resource in Angels Camp for all this stuff too is the Visitors Bureau.
Oh, yeah.
Right next, it's very close to the movie theater, and they have a lot of information, just about anything if you're interested, and you can go in there and ask them, and they can tell you.
Sure, they can tell you where the horseback riding is.
Yep.
They can tell you where to rent a canoe. They can tell you where who's interested in volunteering too, or what they need done. So back to Angels Camp, the Angels Camp Museum rocks. It is so interesting.
I still haven't been to that one yet.
It's huge. You have.
I know it looks really small on the side of the road, but I know it's really big.
It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. The Pecanese, one of the local families who had a print shop here for years has set up an 1860s print shop there. There's a blacksmithing shop there. There's buggies and carriages and history. In half the people that up here, their grandparents are up here, and you can see pictures of them. and so it's, oh, I know that family name, and oh, that's their grandparents. There's pictures. It's fun. It's a great big place, just like the Red Barn in San Andreas. It's got so much to do.
Yeah.
Our group, we offer blacksmithing classes at Quyle Kilns through the California Blacksmiths Association, but they're always looking for people who have a little knowledge in blacksmithing to volunteer to demonstrate at the Red Barn and at the Angels Museum and Columbia State Park. So there's skills to be learned out there. Let's see, there's the Resource Connection. There's a teen center in San Andreas. There's a teen center Resource Connection in West Point. There's one in Mountain Ranch.
There's one in
Valley Springs Teen Center. All of those places offering you help with your homework during school years and craft and arts and theater program and a place to hang out and look, do the internet and visit with your friends. Those are all fun.
Some other fun things, I think, nature things to do in Angels are Maloney's, which is a pay, but they got a lot of stuff out there. They got a lot of trails.
Get a lot of day for your, couple bucks.
Yeah, and you can rent a boat, or if you have a boat, go on the lake.
Or just swim.
Or swim.
Or fish.
And there's a park in Angels Camp, and they're always doing stuff every weekend.
Car shows and fun stuff.
And
there.
they do that's a good fun place. I think a lot of people go to hang out.
Yeah.
And just going for a walk around Angels is actually pretty fun.
It is the funnest town because it's just, it's like this.
And there's some really cool, if you walk up, a lot of people don't realize, but if you walk up into kind of the neighborhood areas, there's some really cool views and really awesome views down in the town, and it's pretty
Lots
nice.
of history.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
definitely.
when I go, I try to look at and visualize some of those old pictures of town, and it's like, well, where was those mines and where was that? And I try to now put the new in front of the old and try to see, where everything's moved to. That's kind of cool. And of course, there's natural bridges, which you can bicycle down and back. That's not a terrible bike from Angels Camp down to Natural Bridges.
And a big thing, kind of new that's happening, which I hope does happen, is they're trying to make a trail to go from downtown Angels Camp down to Maloney's. And there already is basically one, but it's like on private property. So, that I think is something in the future that's going to be a really cool thing. So.
Yeah, and Copperopolis has the Copper Town Center. So there's music there. There's the art store there that offers all sorts of classes. There's always some sort of event going on there.
There's an ice cream store.
Oh, there is. There's music in the parks, of course, sponsored by the Arts Council. Once again, Arts Council does a heck of a lot of good work. They run a gallery. They support the student shows that come in from the high school. They support arts all over Calaveras County.
And one really cool thing that they do is the shows that they do all across the county.
Yeah.
And so no matter where you are,
there's one coming.
There's probably at least one in the summer very close to you that you can go to at some kind of, whether it's a park or a hall or whatever. So I think that's really cool that they spread it out, because Murphy's and Angels Camp, they'll have stuff in their parks, but those are kind of more for those areas in a way. And so it's really great that they have a variety.
Yeah. So there's something going on in West Point, something in Moke Hill, and something in Mountain Ranch, and it's really nice to get it spread out a little bit more. So thank you, Arts Council. Support your Arts Council. So of course you could take dancing classes. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of dance groups. Joanne's over in Sonora, which you can get a bus to. They're offering fondant baking class, decorating classes and sewing classes and all sorts of things over there quite reasonably, and you can put a party together. The new climbing rock, that's something I think is cool. At Moaning Caves, there's of course the rappel that you can do, which is free on your birthday. But now they've done a pretty good sized climbing rock that's $5 for 2 climbs up. And that's reasonable. So you could get a group of friends and race to the top, because there's a bell on top and you can race it. And that'd be fun.
I think a really big resource in the county is, you've touched on a lot of them, but the nature stuff. There's lakes, trails, stuff like that.
Bird watching.
And I personally really enjoy the photography. And I think that anybody who's into photography, there's a lot of really great resources out here. Views, water, animals, plants, flowers.
And today with our digital equipment, camera and our digital phones, you can get better photographs than I could with my old equipment any time.
Right.
Yeah, and post and share and enjoy that. Yeah, so there's a lot of that. In fact, I like your phone. I see them on Facebook. So it seems like there's a little bit of anything that you could actually ever want from martial arts. Oh, there's football. Sorry, there's football camps, soccer camps, lacrosse camps. I mentioned swimming at the aquatic center, which is huge in Bret Hart. They've got classes and lessons of all sorts. Every lake up here needs a lifeguard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge one to me, because can you think of a better job than hanging out in a swimsuit and watching girls for the summer? I mean, that seems like a really great job.
I think there's a lot of stuff. There's definitely a lot of stuff that teens can do, and it's hard when you're a teen to realize. And even if you don't have a car to be able to get to the things, but there are a lot of things if you're willing to get out there and try it.
Yeah. So go online, go to the information about the visitor center, look for classes in the county, look for things to do. It's all here. You do have to drive farther, but that's, but you get to look at the beautiful scenery while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
do you know some outdoors things you could do in Murphy's? Because I go, it's really pretty there. It's just I don't know of a lot of outdoor type stuff you could do there.
Well, there's I haven't been to it, but there's a trail kind of by the park that goes down. I forget what people call it. But a really big thing that people like to do, it's very difficult, is walk up the fire break.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a way to get to...
up past Little Rocky and Big Rocky up to the top of the hill. Mm-hmm.
And there's a way to get to the fire break, and you can walk up. And it's worth it because it's a really beautiful view of all of Murphy's and that whole valley. And you can see Maloney's and all this stuff. But it is very steep, so it's a little bit more... it's something that's a little more intense for people.
Okay, but if you didn't want to be so intense, take the 2-mile walk out and go out to Couts Ironstone. That's a wonderful
really
walk. Don't forget that there's tennis classes being offered in Murphy's and San Andreas at the tennis courts right behind the old schoolhouse. One of my favorite things, I love walking up in the cemeteries. I can spend hours walking through the cemeteries. I love that. But I knew all those people.
And walking from one side to the other side to Murphy's is like kind of downtown.
It's 2 miles.
It's
That's a good walkout.
You can stop and get a little bite to eat, or just walk through and see people. And
and you can take the walking tour of the old homes, and that's kind of fun. It's free. You show up at the Old Timers Museum in Murphy's, and they'll take you on a walking tour and describe all the houses and the history of the different buildings, and that's really fun. I love bicycling around town. I love bicycling out to Indian Rock, out Pennsylvania Gulch Road. Pennsylvania Gulch goes all the way up 6 miles, all the way up to Forest Meadows, basically behind, but you can go out that way forever, and have lovely views from there. Just around town on bicycles, just fun. We used to go down the creek on our inner tubes, and it's a little overgrown right now.
I think there's a lot of roads that aren't necessarily hiking trails, but are really beautiful just to walk down.
Oh, well, French Gulch.
Yeah, and French Gulch is a good one. I walked down San Domingo Road, which is off of Sheep Ranch Road.
Yeah.
And there was hardly any cars, and it was a beautiful walk in the springtime, and it wasn't. Or it was a hike, but it wasn't, it's not really a hiking trail, but there's hardly any cars, and it was really awesome to hike down that. So.
But tennis there. Can't swim right now. The pool isn't open there right now, which is unfortunate. But the tennis would be great, and of course Feeney Park with disc golf and the skate park and the soccer and the.
Yeah, I have a group of friends who they do ultimate frisbee, which is like football but with frisbee, and they do that every week at Feeney Park, and they've grown. They've become quite a big group, I don't really think they have teams or anything like that, but maybe they do.
Loose knit.
Yeah, but I haven't gone,
Loose
but
knit, rowdy
it's
fun.
apparently a lot of fun. Yeah, so.
I would think so. We used to have a bunch of friends that would take our guitars down and just play in the park. And it was a wonderful way to spend an evening. Sitting at Murphy's Park, a few mosquitoes here and there, but we'd just everybody'd play and sing. We had a ball. And it was harmless and legal, which is nice.
Well, there's a lot of places like Murphy's Park, but like I'm thinking the Copper Town Center or Utica Park, they're made for that. They're made for, people kind of have
Gathering.
this mentality of like teens like loitering, but those places are made for them to go and have a good time and play music, and even if they're just sitting and talking, but they are made for people to publicly come. You don't have to pay, you don't have to permit or anything like that. So as long as you're maybe if you're underage, you might want to make sure you're okay with your parents, but they are made like those are sort of like designated loiter areas. That's where you're supposed to go to hang out.
Public park.
Yeah.
Public. Yeah, that is the word.
And even in the wintertime, just bring a jacket.
Yeah. What else? I think, Turner Park here in town in San Andreas is one of the nicest parks. That's one of the prettiest areas to sit with friends. I love it. If that had been here when I was in high school, I loved it. So that's high on my list. And there's activities going on there. I'm checking I know
they have the Arts
Calaveras
Kennel
Kids Book.
music stuff there every now and then,
Okay.
and I think they do cook-offs sometimes there, so like barbecue type things.
Okay.
So.
So what do you do?
Oh, you don't want to know.
Well, other than host television shows. So, of course, you could also sign up and take classes here at Calaveras Community Television at the studio in San Andreas and learn how to be a TV host.
It's a fun class.
Producer,
You're taking it.
director. And that's it was having a class like this when I was in high school that pushed me into going into television for 15 years. And I had a TV production company. And it was because of the one camera that I got to play with at Calaveras High School in 1969 that gave me a career direction. And I didn't stay in that career. That's okay. You don't have to. There's, life's long enough. You can do more than one thing.
Well, that brings up a good point too about volunteering. Volunteering can be a really rewarding, fun thing to do that you have no sort of agenda to do. A lot of people I think that's really what the heart of volunteering is anyway, but I think that there's a lot of things you can do where you're volunteering and have a really good time. I volunteered at music shows, and you do that at work, but it's great because you have a really great time because you get to see the show.
Get your ticket.
Yeah, and you get to meet people and you have a good time. You might have to do something like clean up trash or be the doorman or do tickets,
but
whatever.
At the cost of a festival ticket, that's well worth it.
Yeah. So, and I may not really want to get into music or get into doing shows or anything like that, but it's a really fun thing to do sometimes. So I think that there's a lot of things that people can do to volunteer and that's the reward for doing it is greater than the hard work, whatever hard work requires to do it.
Yeah, and it's those connections that you're making once again, where you can say, somebody will say, oh, I know somebody who's looking for a house sitter, a dog sitter, or something. What it's making the connections with people.
Well, not only job connections, but just general social connections. When I first moved up here, I didn't know anybody. And I will say I volunteered. We're all kind of from the studio, social group here. But I didn't really know anybody. And, but I wanted to volunteer here, and I had no intention. And I ended up meeting a lot of really wonderful people and making a lot of friends. So, and I know that other organizations that have volunteer-based, that's how you can get to know people and make friends and meet people who you'll know for the rest of your life, and meet people who you get jobs and stuff like that. But it's also a really good social way to kind of create a good social circle of people.
Yeah,
so.
Because after you're out of high school or even when you're in high school, it's really nice to know people who aren't just your age, and I think it's really important. When I was in high school in the 70s here, we had a group of adults who decided they wanted to build a recycling center for Calaveras County. This is in the 70s. And they got kids from the high school to volunteer, and I was one of them. And we manned trucks in all the little towns in Calaveras County every Saturday of every month, first Saturday and third Saturday, and we recycled, and they were grown-ups, they had cars. They drove the trucks down to Stockton and recycled this stuff just because it was good for the county. And it went on for years. But I'm really pleased that I still know those people. They were 25 and I was 15. And now they're still 10 years older than me, but now we're still friends, which is really nice. And I've appreciated those connections over the years. So once again, I was volunteering for something I thought was good for the community, and I'm glad I did.
And I think if you do it before you're out of high school, it would be really helpful for after you're out of high school, because when you're in school, when you're going to school, you're basically forced to make friends with the people you're sitting next to because you're forced to go to school. And then you go to college or whatever, even if you're done with high school and you get a job and you've never done anything else, it might be kind of a shock to you to have to like meet people and be social with people who you're not forced to sit next to them
And get
in class.
along with geezers that are all, I mean, because there's a lot of them
It's
out
not
there.
just about the students and the teachers, it's about a whole bunch
you
of
now
stuff.
have to deal with that 65-year-old contractor who has attitude about your hair, or your looks, or your smokes, or whatever, and you've got to learn how to deal with these people.
Yeah.
And then that's a lot of education.
So yeah, if you volunteer when you're young and get to know
How
a variety of
to
people,
cope and how to deal with geezers,
it'll be
because
a lot
there's a lot of us
easier.
out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there really are. But that's part of the education. Now, it's not just your reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are terribly important, obviously, to help you get through other areas. But you need to learn social skills and how to manage your time and how to approach people. It's only people that we work with for our whole lives. We'll be dealing with other people forever.
when I went to college, it was an interesting experience, and I learned a lot, and I got a degree and everything. But I will say, I went to college in San Francisco, and the experience of being in San Francisco,
That was the education.
that was so much of the education.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like the skills I learned from the school I went to.
Yeah. Go as many places, do as many things, experience as many things as you can in life. Sitting home, being bored, is for the birds. If you're bored, you're boring. Bottom line. There's no reason to ever be bored. There's so much stuff to do. And
Well,
especially when you've got the internet too.
That's awesome. And just so much stuff you can do in this county and neighboring counties. And thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm talked your ear off, but thank you, Brandon.
Yes, thank you. It was fun.
And I want you guys to know there's some dance classes you can take at Zumba. I love it. With Karina Davis, it's Mondays at 5:30 p.m. in the San Andreas Town Hall, Tuesdays and Thursdays 5:30 p.m. in Vallecito Family for Fitness, and then Saturdays at 9 a.m. Vallecito Family for Fitness. Again, they're really awesome. The instructor's awesome. You'll love her. I do. And I hope that, I'll see you guys soon. This is going to be my last show for a while. And I hope to be coming back. I don't know if I will. And just hope you guys have a wonderful summer. Thanks for joining us. Bye.